Hello and welcome back to a season, the 2041-2042 season that's started exactly how you would expect for a season in this save. A couple of things to point out. I don't quite know how we managed to put 9 past Porto at Porto in a friendly, but we did. And our only defeat so far has been a 2-1 loss at Southampton that I'm showing you here, where going for the win, having dominated the game, we conceded a 94th minute goal to lose. But that puts us through to the 4th round of the League Cup. And if I take you to the Premier League, you'll see that we are 9th, which is kind of the place that we finished fairly consistently for the last few years. Again, obviously, I'm hoping this season that we might just make it up into the European places, but we don't have any European football this season, despite having a reasonably good Champions League campaign last year, and obviously winning the Europa League the year before. Now, looking at the recruitment, another typical summer for us with quite a few players going out and not a huge amount coming in. A few young players there out on loan, and then we moved on Hato, who had a reasonably good season for us, and I was undecided about what I would do with him, but £4.5 million for someone who is 35 I thought was probably a good deal because we had been able to replace him with some of the younger players coming through. Escobar didn't really feature a huge amount last season, so I let him go for 25.5. Bance, again, a 31-year-old who wasn't playing regularly, for 26, again I thought was a little bit too good not to take, as with Mori Torre, who, although he still have a little bit of potential to grow into, he wasn't playing regularly, and 26.5 million gave us a good amount of money to spend. And the way that we spent that, you'll see the first really big bank-breaking transfer of this save was Pedro Pinto. 22 years old, he has come in from Sporting, who reached the Champions League final before we signed him. He looks like he's going to be a real star, and he's made a reasonable start to the season, almost a 7 rating and 2 goals in the first 4 appearances. Juan Ruiz was a bit of a failure. I brought him in on a free, hoping we'd be able to convert him to play at right back. He really does not want to play at right back, but he is someone that I'm keeping around a little bit for his experience, and because hopefully at some point this season he will realise he can play at right back given his ability. He obviously just hasn't played there at any point in his career before. Then you'll see the other 2 signings are both for strikers. First of all, Mark Gaichem, who came in from Birmingham City, scored once in his first 3 starts and 2 appearances off the bench. A lot of potential to grow into, as you can see there. But because he wasn't there, I also managed to bring in Paul Rowe on a loan deal from Atletico Madrid. We told them, we've got an optional future fee of somewhere near 70 million for him. I'm probably not going to take that. He really is a bit of a stopgap until Gleicham can grow into the potential he's got, or until we can find another good target man kind of style centre forward. You'll notice they're both big centre forwards, really, 184 and 187 centimetres respectively. I looked at a few other centre forwards, and there was no one that I really liked that we could afford. Anyone that was any good was asking for far too much money, so we've gone with the combination of young player who might grow into his potential and experienced player on loan to get us through this season. When it comes to the tactics, this is how we've been setting up. We've got the 2 options of Strinsig or Blanco again at right back. We've still got the Rich and Lahan partnership at centre half, and then it's Bogdanovic who's now got that position to his own now that Hato has moved on. Butovski stays in goal. Actually, that's demonstrated to me that there was some recruitment you haven't seen, because Bakar wasn't on the list, was he? So I go back to the end of last season. Tomer Bakar, we spent 64 million on him, a fairly experienced, reasonable player, I think. Again, we're having to pay quite a lot of money for players that aren't really worth it, although I've just noticed how incredibly high his value has gone. I'd be very surprised if anyone offers us almost 200 million for him. If they did, I would certainly take it, because he's definitely not star, and he has come in from Stuttgart. There were a few outgoings as well that I need to show you. We made 33 million on Matsugane. Actually, there's quite a few big ones here to talk you through. Again, his potential had dropped off a little bit, so I took the money for him. Yarmolenko, I moved on so that we could make the signing of Bakar. Cameron Cooper, I allowed to move on. Flago, again, players that were good for us, but their potential dropped off. I was to and fro with Flago a little bit, but 14 million was what allowed us really to bring in Pinto. Williams for almost 30 million to Aston Villa, and then again some young players in Shepherd and Mullin that hadn't lived up to their potential. And Sipka I allowed to move on given his potential had dropped off, and I will show you the young keeper that has moved up. Now back to the matchday tactics. So you'll see it's Younger and Bakar in what is now quite a strong midfield with Pinto in front of them. Let's turn off the unavailable filter so you can see that it's Ince on the left, Bassani on the right. Given that Ince doesn't like big matches, he is someone that I would happily take a good sized offer for. But as you can see, he has had a very good start to the season, as has Bassani. There was a lot of interest in Bassani, but I managed to keep hold of him again. It's Linton that's coming, as moved up, I guess, as the backup keeper, having been out on loan. Beardmore wanted to leave, but he's going to stay around for one more season. I'd like to win the Champions League with Beardmore, but he does want to move on. I'm just not sure he's someone that we're going to be able to keep around for too much longer because he was asking for moves. Mora has got a year older now. He is 34, but he's going to be our backup attacking midfielder. And I'm kind of rotating between Rowe and Gleicham, although it's probably going to be Rowe that keeps that position for now until Gleicham can grow into that potential a little bit more. And then the three young players, Pickles, who came through the latest youth intake, who looks like he could be a bit of a star in the future. Henneberg and Santiago, with Ruiz as the option once I can teach him to play at right back, who will feature a little bit more. So that's where we are. That's the end of the summer transfer window. I'll be back at the end of the January one with an update on how we're getting on. Hello and welcome back, and I have to start here really because this unbeaten run, including an incredibly long winning run in the Premier League, obviously the defeat there to Spurs, but you have to go all the way back to the beginning of November for Arsenal before that, and all those green dots will demonstrate quite nicely that the Premier League season is going almost as well as it could have been. Second, quite a clear gap to Spurs in third. Paul Rowe, which was a bit of a gamble of a signing because I couldn't find a better centre forward that was going to be our striker long term, turns out to have been an exceptional signing. And it's only really the last two games that have seen us drop off the top of the table, mainly because of injuries to Pinto and Ince, who have been exceptional this season so far. Pinto has been an unbelievable signing, really worth the huge fee that we paid for him, and Ince has been one of the best players in the league overall as well. So with things going really well, I wasn't too busy in the January transfer window. If I take you to the transfer history and sort it again by date, you'll see that there were a few outgoings. Gleicham, who was the backup striker, has gone out on loan, and you'll see why shortly, as did Jude Dobbs, who played a few times in that first half of the season. We let go of Santiago and Roda as well, both young players, again, whose potential had dropped off, and so I cashed in, although I think Roda actually was one that was a release clause that I couldn't do anything about. I have to keep an eye on some of our other promising young players in future. And the reason why we were able to let Gleicham go on loan is because we brought in Taylor, Dutton and Black from Brighton. He was someone I was looking at in the summer, and we didn't have the money to get it done, but the money opened up in the January window, and after his 4 goals in 17 games for Brighton, we've brought him in. He is yet to score, but he is playing backup for now. Lots of potential, a decent current ability, and he will come in as our main centre forward, and I've promised him this when Rowe goes, although it might be the case that we try and bring Rowe in permanently as a backup because he's had such a good season. But anyway, that's where we are. This is how the team looks, and I'll be back at the end of the season with a conclusion for this really good season so far. Hello, and welcome back to the final day of the season, where despite a fairly poor, but I guess still unbeaten February, and a few tricky results towards the end of the season, including a 4-3 final day defeat to Villa, I bring good news that we managed to finish third, held off Liverpool on goal difference on the final day, and we are off to the Champions League again. That's far better really than I think we could have hoped for. I was thinking that possibly we could scrape our way into Europe again this campaign, but to have done as well as we did is exceptional. Paul Rowe has scored the most goals. I brought him in to just fill a gap this season with the two young strikers hopefully coming on to take those place next season, but I'm going to have to consider keeping him, I think. We've got about 100 million to spend for next year. If I can get hold of him for a reasonable price and have him as a squad member, given how well he's this season, I'm definitely going to have to consider it, I think. So as you saw previously, no real success in either of the cups, but a little bit of a rundown here of our performance. Obviously, Rowe had a really good season, finishing top scorer in the Premier League, and actually Bassani was our best player, and there were calls for him to make it into the Premier League team of the season. I haven't seen that yet, but he certainly has had an excellent season with 13 goals and 18 assists, and he was the one of that front four, or front three behind Rowe really, that I was thinking might need to be replaced, but an exceptional season means he's going to keep his position next year. Pinto only keeps improving, and Ince has had another good season as well. Lahan might be the one that we look to replace as a defender. He hasn't had a particularly great season, despite playing regularly, and Vitovsky isn't quite the superstar that he was when we first brought him in. So if Linton can improve over the summer, that could be a consideration. Flintner Maximovic have done a plenty good enough job as well, so we don't really have a huge amount of work to do going forwards. And defensively, we were pretty good as well. So all in all, a pretty good season. That will bring this episode to an end, though. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, as usual, please leave a like and subscribe. And we've already got a few transfer deals coming for the start of next season, so join me again for the next episode.